Okay, let's go. Number 1. Vault B, Padmanabhaswamy Temple. Vault B, in 2011. The Supreme Court of India ordered a court-appointed committee to inventory the vaults beneath the Sarai Padmanabhaswamy Temple in Tiruvananthapuram, Kerala. The committee opened Vault S, then C, then D, E, and F. What they found across those 5 chambers has been preliminarily valued by the State Bank of India at a minimum of $22 billion. Gold statues, diamond-encrusted crowns, ceremonial weapons, bags of loose gemstones catalogued across thousands of line items. It was, by most assessments, the largest documented collection of treasure ever found inside a single religious institution anywhere on Earth. Then they reached Vault B. The doors are iron. 2 of them, set into the temple's foundation stone, each carved with the image of a cobra. There is no visible lock mechanism accessible from the outside. The committee measured the doors, photographed them, recorded the cobra carvings in their official report, Civil Appeal Number 2732 of 2020, and stopped. They stopped at the door. The Nambudiri priests who conduct the temple's rituals have maintained a consistent position. Vault B is sealed by a Naga Bandham, a serpent seal, a divine prohibition. Opening it will cause catastrophic harm. Not metaphorical harm. Physical catastrophe, precisely described. The Temple Trust added a structural argument. The vault may have been sealed with lime mortar in antiquity, and what appears to be a door may be, architecturally, closer to a wall. No independent structural analysis has been permitted to confirm or refute this claim. The Archaeological Survey of India has not been granted access to conduct one. The legal record on Vault B is a sequence of advances and retreats. The Kerala High Court moved toward opening it in 2014. The Supreme Court pulled back in 2020. Each ruling returned the door to the same position it started. Closed, photographed from the outside, unmeasured from within. The committee's report, filed under the amicus curiae submission of Justice Gopal Subramaniam, notes the existence of the door, the cobra carvings, and the priest's prohibition. It does not note what is inside, because no verified internal inspection has ever occurred. What the other 5 vaults contained was enough to reframe the category of institutional wealth entirely. If those were the rooms they opened, Vault B is the one they didn't open for a reason. Whether that reason is divine authority, structural reality, or legal caution, the Supreme Court of India has not issued a final order compelling anyone to find out. The priests still hold effective control. The cobra carvings have been photographed and filed. That is the complete extent of what is known about the inside of Vault B. Number 2. Qin Shi Huang's tomb chamber. 221 BCE. A man named Ying Zheng finished conquering the last of the warring states and declared himself the first emperor of a unified China. He standardized the written language, the currency, and the axle width of every cart in the empire so that wheels would wear the same grooves into every road from the capital to the frontier. He was 38 years old when he took the title Qin Shi Huang, and he had been planning his tomb for over a decade before he finished the war. That tomb has been sealed for 2,245 years. The archaeologists who have found it have chosen to leave it closed. The earliest account comes from Sima Qian, writing in his records of the Grand Historian around 90 BCE, roughly a century after the emperor's death. Sima Qian describes an underground palace of rivers of mercury flowing through channels carved to represent the Yangtze and the Yellow River, a ceiling inlaid with astronomical maps, crossbow mechanisms set to fire automatically at intruders, and a replica of the entire Chinese empire built across the floor. For 2,000 years, historians treated this the way historians treat accounts of mercury rivers in underground palaces with measured skepticism. In 2016, a research team from the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the University of Liverpool conducted a remote sensing survey of the soil above the burial mound. They measured mercury concentrations. They found anomalously high levels directly above the chamber levels, consistent with large quantities of liquid mercury stored in an enclosed space for an extended period. Sima Qian's account had been in the historical record for 2,100 years before the instruments existed to check it. The instruments confirmed it. The mausoleum complex covers 98 square kilometers. The terracotta warriors, which most people picture when they think of Qin Shi Huang's tomb, are located in the outer pits approximately 1.5 kilometers from the burial mound itself. The army is the perimeter, not the treasure. The burial chamber lies 35 meters below the surface. The Chinese National Cultural Heritage Administration's official moratorium on excavation is preservation-based and publicly stated. Current technology cannot protect organic materials once the sealed environment is broken. This argument is supported by a specific, photographed event from 1974. When the terracotta warriors were first excavated, each figure carried polychrome paint applied over lacquer in precise detail. Within seconds of air exposure, the paint began to flake. The process was documented as it happened. Figures that had held their color for 2,200 years began losing it in moments. That event became the central argument for leaving the inner chamber sealed until conservation technology can be demonstrated at the required scale. The chamber has not been opened. The mercury is still there by the best available measurement. The Chinese government has said, on the record, that they are waiting. They have not said for how long. Number 3. The Gantenbrink Door Great Pyramid. The shaft is 20 centimeters wide. It rises at 39.5 degrees through the granite and limestone of the Great Pyramid's southern face, climbing 65 meters from a point near the Queen's Chamber to a small limestone blocking slab with 2 copper fittings set into its surface. No human body has ever been at the far end of that shaft. The geometry prevents it. In 1993, a German engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a robot called UPUAUT2 up that shaft. The footage showed the copper fittings clearly 2 metal handles on the face of the slab, and beneath the slab, a gap. A space between the bottom edge of the stone and the shaft floor, suggesting the area beyond was not solid fill. The footage was broadcast internationally. The Egyptian Antiquities Organization suspended Gantenbrink's access within weeks. He did not return. In 2002, National Geographic partnered with iRobot to send the Pyramid rover up the same shaft on live television. The robot drilled through the limestone slab. The camera found a second blocking slab, set 21 centimeters behind the first. There was a space beyond the first door. There was also another door. In 2011, the Jetty Robot Project, a collaboration between the University of Leeds and Dassault Systems, led by researcher Robert Richardson, maneuvered a miniature camera through the copper fittings to photograph the reverse face of the first slab. The camera found red ochre hieroglyphs painted on the back of the stone and a painted false door symbol. In ancient Egyptian funerary architecture, the false door is a specific and documented object. The symbolic threshold between the living and the dead, the architectural representation of a passage not meant to be physically traversed. Someone painted one on the back of a blocking slab inside a sealed shaft, then sealed the shaft. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities' position is that the shafts are ritual features and the blocking slabs are architectural elements rather than operative doors. This is a coherent interpretation. It accounts for the slabs. It accounts for the hieroglyphs. It does not account for the copper fittings. The fittings are handles. Shaped like handles, positioned like handles, made of a metal the ancient Egyptians reserved for objects of significant function or value. A handle is designed to be pulled by something. In a shaft no human can enter, sealed behind a second blocking slab, with a false door painted on its reverse face, the question of what the handle was installed for has not been closed by the ritual interpretation. The 2011 Jetty mission was the last officially sanctioned robotic exploration of the shaft. The red ochre hieroglyphs have not been fully translated. No further access has been approved by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The second slab sits 21 centimeters behind the first. The copper handles face inward toward a space that 3 robotic missions across 4 decades have not been able to reach. Number 4. Taj Mahal Underground Chamber Doors. 1643. The year the Taj Mahal was completed. Above ground, the structure is one of the most documented buildings in human history, every surface measured, every inscription catalogued, every stone accounted for. Below ground, beneath the main mausoleum plinth, there are basement chambers behind locked wooden doors that tourists pass within meters of every day. The Archaeological Survey of India holds the keys. Independent inspection has not been granted within living memory. The basic facts are undisputed. The chambers exist. They are accessible via staircases inside the mausoleum structure. The ASI's stated position is that they are structurally sensitive and consistent with standard Mughal funerary architecture. What is also on the record is this. In 1978, flooding around Agra prompted the ASI to open and inspect the basement rooms. The results of that inspection were documented internally. They have not been made publicly available. The rooms were sealed again. No independent archaeologist has been granted access before or since. A 1941 survey conducted under British administration documented multiple basement rooms, some with bricked-up doorways, several of which had not been entered or catalogued at the time of survey. That documentation remains in the ASI's archive. It has not been published in full. The claim driving the legal challenges is specific, that the Taj Mahal was constructed on the site of a pre-existing Hindu temple, the Tejo Mahalaya, and that the locked rooms contain architectural evidence of that original structure. The claim originates with historian P.N. Oakes' 1989 book, Taj Mahal, The True Story. Mainstream historians and the A.S. the Fuzz have characterized the theory as without historical foundation. The Allahabad High Court dismissed petitions based on it in 2017. The Supreme Court dismissed a further petition in 2022 at the admissibility stage without ordering the rooms to be examined. That is the structure of the situation. An institution claims the rooms are known and unremarkable. The same institution has declined every request for the independent inspection that would confirm this. A Supreme Court petition requesting a court-appointed videographic survey of a publicly funded national monument was dismissed without requiring the institution to demonstrate what it is preserving. The rooms remain uninspected by any independent party. 7 million visitors walk past those staircases annually. The question of what is at the bottom of them is not inaccessible. The doors are meters away. The keys exist. The staircase is there. The keys remain with the ASI. The locks have not turned for any independent observer within living memory. Number 5. The Kaaba door. 1.8 billion people. That is the number of Muslims worldwide. The Kaaba is the structure every one of them faces in prayer, 5 times a day, regardless of where on earth they are standing. It sits at the center of Masjid al-Haram, in Mecca, the largest mosque ever built. The door is set into its northeastern wall, approximately 2 meters above ground level, reachable only by a wooden staircase brought out on specific occasions. Most of the people circling the Kaaba at any given moment will never stand on that staircase. Most of the human beings alive on earth will never enter the city the Kaaba stands in. The door is gold, installed in 1979 under King Khalid of Saudi Arabia, weighing approximately 280 kilograms, crafted by Saudi artisan Ahmad ibn Ibrahim al-Qafal. It replaced a 1942 door, which replaced a 1635 door, which replaced doors whose lineage extends further back than any complete written record traces. The structure itself, in Islamic tradition, predates recorded history, first constructed by Ibrahim and his son Ismail, rebuilt multiple times, each iteration preserving the same footprint and orientation. The interior is not a reliquary. What is inside has been described by named individuals across multiple centuries. Ibn Battuta entered during a cleaning ceremony in the 14th century and recorded the interior in his Rihla. A marble floor, 3 wooden pillars supporting the ceiling, hanging lamps, walls inscribed with Quranic verses. No hidden archive, no chest, a room. The door opens twice per year for the Ghusl al-Kaaba, the ritual cleaning. The interior is washed with Zamzam water and rose water. Those present are the Bani Shayba family, hereditary keepers of the Kaaba's key, a custodial role held by the same lineage since the Prophet Muhammad returned the key to them after entering Mecca in 630 CEE. Senior Saudi officials and invited dignitaries are sometimes included. The criteria for invitation are not published. No member of the general public has ever been included. No non-Muslim has entered under any officially sanctioned modern circumstance. It is categorical. The key is a large iron implement, historically ornate. It is held by the head of the Bani Shayba family. That family's custodial authority over the Kaaba's entrance predates the current Saudi state, the Ottoman Empire, and most of the world's currently standing institutions by several centuries. The 280-kilogram door has a lock. The lock has a key. The key belongs to one family. That appointment has not been revoked in 1400 years. Number 6. Ise Grand Shrine Inner Sanctuary Gates. Every 20 years, the Ise Grand Shrine is completely demolished and rebuilt identically on the adjacent plot of land. The timber is new. The tools used follow ancient specifications. The roof thatch is replaced. Every pillar, every wall, every gate reconstructed from scratch by craftspeople trained specifically for this purpose, using the same cypress wood, the same joinery techniques, the same architectural proportions that have governed Ise's construction since at least 690 CE. The ritual is called Shikinin Sengu. It has been completed 62 times. The current structures date to 2013. The next demolition is scheduled for 2033. The complex receives approximately 8 million visitors per year. The approach to the inner shrine, the Neiku, follows a gravel path through forested grounds, crossing the Esusu River on a wooden bridge. Visitors reach the outermost gate, offer a prayer from behind a white linen curtain, and stop. That curtain is the boundary. On the other side of it begins a hierarchy of access so vertical that most Shinto priests spend their entire careers on the wrong side of the innermost gate. The innermost sanctuary houses the Yata no Kagami, the sacred mirror, one of the 3 imperial treasures of Japan, alongside the Kusanagi sword and the Yasakani jewel, documented in the Nihon Shoki of 720 CE. In Shinto theology, the mirror is not a representation of the goddess Amaterasu. It is considered her physical dwelling a locus of divine presence, transferred to Ise from the imperial palace after oracular instruction determined it was too powerful to remain in proximity to the emperor. No photograph of the Yata no Kagami exists in the public record. The priests who tend the innermost sanctuary perform their duties with eyes averted. The mirror is wrapped in cloth. The outermost wrapping is periodically replaced. The innermost layers have not been removed within recorded documentation. The last time the imperial regalia appeared in a public adjacent context was during the 1990 enthronement of Emperor Akihito. A covered box understood to contain the treasures was present. It was not opened. It was not displayed. When the Shikinin Sengu is performed and the sacred objects are transferred to the new structures, they travel under coverings, carried by priests whose eyes remain averted. The mirror moves every 20 years. No one who moves it describes what they are carrying. 8 million visitors per year. The gravel path, the bridge, the forested grounds. The white curtain drops when anyone approaches. And behind it, a room that has not been described by any verified witness in over 1,000 years. Number 7. Derinkuyu Underground City Stone Doors. You are 8 levels underground. The passage behind you is 50 centimeters wide, narrow enough that your shoulders brush both walls simultaneously. The ceiling is low. The air is cool and still. And in front of you, fitted precisely into a channel cut into the volcanic rock, is a circular stone disc approximately 1.5 meters across, half a meter thick, weighing somewhere between 200 and 500 kilograms. There is a hole at its center, roughly fist-sized. The disc can be rolled into position from this side. From the other side, it cannot be moved at all. That is the door. And it worked. Derinkuyu is not a cave. It is an excavation, a deliberate, multi-generational act of carving a complete functioning city into the volcanic tuff beneath the Cappadocia region of central Turkey. 18 levels, descending approximately 60 meters below the surface. Stables, wine cellars, water wells, ventilation shafts, churches, schools, and storage rooms for livestock and grain. The Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism's official documentation estimates sheltered between 20,000 and 50,000 people at maximum capacity. 8 levels are currently open to visitors. The remaining levels have been documented but not fully cleared for public access. The stone doors' circular basalt discs, each one cut to fit a specific channel in a specific tunnel wall, could only be operated from the interior. The concave face was on the inside. An attacker pushing from outside engaged the convex face with no mechanical advantage and no grip. The hole at the center allowed a spear or rod to be passed through from inside to lock the disc's position. An army that breached the entrance tunnels would find itself in a passage 1 person wide, facing several hundred kilograms of precisely fitted stone that could not be moved, while the people on the other side had water from their wells, food from their stores, and air from 52 ventilation shafts descending 85 meters to the surface. The door could only be locked from inside. The scholarly consensus places Derinkuyu's origins between the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, with the Phrygians as probable builders. Though the city was expanded and used across multiple subsequent cultures, Byzantine Christians during periods of Roman and Arab persecution. Later populations during Mongol raids as late as the 14th century CE. The city was rediscovered in 1963 when a local resident found a tunnel behind a wall during home renovations. Subsequent excavation has mapped approximately half the complex. The other half has been documented but not fully explored. 12 stone doors have been identified in the excavated sections. Given that half the city remains unexcavated, the total number in the full complex is unknown. The engineering problem Derinkuyu's builders solved 2,700 years ago has not changed. There are people outside who want to get in. The solution: a door they cannot open, operated entirely from the inside by the people who need to survive. Number 8. Chauvet Cave Entrance. December 18, 1994. 3 speleologists, Jean-Marie Chauvet, Eliette Brunel, Christian Hilaire, were surveying the cliff face along the Ardèche Gorge in southern France when they detected a faint draft of air from a debris-covered opening. They cleared the debris, lowered themselves in, and moved through chambers that no human being had entered in somewhere between 20 and 30,000 years. The last person to leave before them had left footprints in the sediment floor. Those footprints were still there. A child's heel print, undisturbed. A hearth, charcoal still in place. The skulls of cave bears arranged possibly deliberately on a flat rock near the center of the cave. And the paintings: woolly rhinoceroses, cave lions mid-stride, mammoths. Horses rendered with a depth and movement that, when Chauvet first saw them, made him assume they were recent, that someone had been inside, that the art was modern. Radiocarbon dating of the charcoal pigments, published in Nature in December 1995 by Chauvet and colleagues, returned ages of 36,000 to 32,000 years before present. The oldest securely dated figurative art on Earth. Qualities: movement, weight, perspective. Three-dimensional spatial reasoning that Western art history formally attributes to the Renaissance, present in a cave in the Ardèche, produced by firelight 36 millennia ago. The cave was sealed 6 months after its discovery. The decision was made with direct reference to Lascaux, a cave in the Dordogne, with paintings approximately 17,000 years old, opened to tourists in 1948, visibly deteriorating by 1963. The mechanism of damage was documented precisely. Carbon dioxide from human breath, warmth from human bodies, microorganisms carried in on clothing and skin, all of it altering the cave's internal atmosphere, triggering algae growth on the painted walls, triggering mineralization, triggering irreversible change. Lascaux was closed. The damage continued. Chauvet's administrators read that record and acted before any damage occurred. A steel security door went in. Access was restricted to a rotating group of researchers operating under strict protocols, maximum 8 to 10 individuals authorized to enter in any given year. Each visit logged, duration limited, equipment sanitized. The paintings have remained stable. The child's heel print has not been disturbed. The French Ministry of Culture's management plan, publicly available, specifies the current annual access limit and the conditions under which it may be reviewed. The public version is the Caverne du Pont d'Arc, a full-scale replica opened in 2015, 3 kilometers from the original, built over 3 years by a team of 300 craftspeople and artists at a cost of 55 million euros. Several 100,000 visitors enter it annually. It is technically precise. It is not the cave. The original entrance is in the cliff, above the Ardèche Gorge, behind the steel door, in the dark. The mammoth is in the dark. The panel of lions mid-stride is in the dark. The child's heel print is in the dark, exactly where it was left 30,000 years ago. Number 9. Altamira Cave Entrance. In 1977, Altamira was closed to general visitors. In 1982, it reopened under controlled conditions. In 2002, it closed again. In 2014, a scientific committee approved a second limited reopening, 5 visitors per week, selected by lottery, accompanied by researchers, maximum 37 minutes per visit. In 2018, published studies showed microbial growth continuing on the painted surfaces, despite these restrictions. The debate has not been resolved. The cave sits in the Cantabria region of northern Spain, near Santillana del Mar. The paintings bison, horses, deer, hand stencils, geometric forms cover the ceiling of a chamber, roughly 18 meters long, and date to between 14,000 and 20,000 years before present. The ceiling paintings are considered among the finest surviving examples of Paleolithic art. The artists used the natural contours of the rock to give the animals volume. The bison bulge from the stone, their bodies following the bumps and ridges of the ceiling, as if the rock itself is the animal and the pigment merely reveals what was already there. A local landowner named Marcelino Sanz de Sacciuola was excavating the cave floor for prehistoric and cave floor, Chauvet. Tide 179 when his young daughter Maria looked up at the ceiling. The scientific establishment of the time declared the painting's forgeries too sophisticated, too accomplished, impossible for prehistoric humans to have produced. It took more than 2 decades, and the discovery of comparable paintings at multiple other sites, before Altamira was formally accepted as authentic at the 1902 International Congress of Prehistoric Archaeology. Sanz de Sacciuola had died in 1888. He was never told he was right. The cave was open to the public in the early 20th century. Visitor numbers increased steadily across the following decades. The same process that destroyed sections of Lascaux's paintings began here. CO2, heat, microorganisms, atmospheric disruption. Green algae appeared on the painted surfaces, then white mineral deposits. Then Ochroconus elascoxensis, the same fungal organism later identified at Lascaux, was documented on walls in a study by Sassi Menez and colleagues published in Science of the Total Environment in 2012. The 2014 reopening experiment was designed to test whether any human presence was compatible with preservation. 5 visitors per week, 37 minutes. Monitored microclimate readings taken before and after each visit. The data from subsequent years showed that biological growth was continuing regardless. The experiment produced its answer. The Museo de Altamira, adjacent to the cave, houses the Neocueva, a full-scale reproduction of the painted ceiling, built using the same documentation methodology employed at Chauvet. Visitors can stand beneath it and look up at the bison. The waiting list for the lottery to enter the original cave runs to tens of thousands of applicants per year. The original ceiling is 11 meters away through a locked door, in the dark, and it is still changing. Number 10. Original Lascaux Cave Entrance. The cave that visitors tour at Lascaux is not the cave. Lascaux 4, a 60 million euro full-scale replica, opened in 2016 as part of the International Cave Art Center, sits on the hillside above the original entrance. The seams where the reproduction panels meet are nearly invisible. The horses in the axial gallery look exactly as they appear in the photographs taken in 1940. Several 100,000 visitors pass through it annually. The original entrance is a few hundred meters away, behind a security fence, behind a locked iron door, in the dark. On September 12, 1940, 4 teenagers Marcel Ravadat, Jacques Marcel, Georges Agnel, Simon Coenques followed a dog named Robot into a hole in the hillside and found approximately 600 painted figures and 1,500 engravings across multiple chambers. Aurochs up to 5 meters long in the Hall of the Bulls, the largest known prehistoric paintings. Horses, bison, rhinoceroses, a wounded man, a bird on a stick. Pigments mixed from ochre, manganese dioxide, and charcoal, bound with animal fat, applied with brushes of hair and moss, blown through hollow bones, pressed directly with fingertips. Dated to approximately 17,000 years before present. The cave opened to the public in 1948. At peak visitation, 1,200 people passed through it per day. The internal atmosphere had been sealed and stable since the last ice age. By 1955, Henry Bruhl documented the first calcite growth on the painted walls. By 1963, a green algae bloom Lamality vert had colonized sections of the most significant paintings. André Malraux, French Minister of Cultural Affairs, closed the cave on April 20, 1963. It has not been publicly accessible since. What happened after closure was not recovery. A white calcite film continued forming over the paintings. In 2001, a Fusarium solani fungal bloom appeared, possibly introduced during a remediation attempt involving a new air conditioning system. The fungus was treated with quicklime and fungicide. New problems developed. Ochroconus elascoxensis appeared. As of the most recent published conservation assessments, the situation is described by the managing body, Semator Perigord, as stable but not resolved. Stable but not resolved. Every door on this list is sealed for a different stated reason: divine prohibition, state caution, legal dispute, engineering, theology, preservation science. But across all 10, the same problem appears in a different form. Something has survived long enough to become irreplaceable, and the act of reaching it may be precisely what ends it. If that is the kind of problem this channel should keep investigating, subscribe and let us know. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. Like the video if you made it this far.